Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another Maple. Sorry, my cat is circling my leg. Monday Maple Musings, the triple M, the microwave, the where we take a look at the subreddit over the last week, and hopefully my cat decides to pick a position. Hi, buddy. We take a look at the subreddit over the last week, and we just kind of chit-chat about the top posts. And I think I just woke up from a nap about, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half ago at this point. Fucking banger of a nap, by the way. Usually not a nap kind of guy, but god damn, do sometimes they hit different. I did see this post right here, an open letter to Inkwell and Team GMS, all capitals. So you know it's a banger, but this is actually, like, from what I skimmed, because I haven't, like, super read it super closely, but from what I skimmed, this seems to be a very well-written post. Very possible AI was used to structure it, but I think structuring information is fine to use AI for. Anyways, I'm going to be opening that thread at the very least, and let's take a look at the rest of the threads that I'm going to be opening. Also, make sure if you're going to hang out, like the video, dislike, do something engagement-wise, fucking leave a comment telling me your favorite color. I don't know, man. And of course, subscribe, bigger number, better person. Inkwell note or riot? I mean, sure, I'll open it. Fuck it. Why not? Why not? Oh yeah, this was the Shining Star Force. That's what happened. I totally blanked on Shining Star Force because I kind of got reamed again, but hey. I mean, I didn't get reamed. At least I made, like, a small gain on my Nightwalker. I won't spoil it too terribly much, but I will just say I spent, like, 70 bill to gain 1 star, let's just say. That video should be coming out maybe in, like, a week and a half or something. I don't know, it depends. I'm pretty far behind on videos. Anyways, we'll leave it here, I guess? I don't know. I just opened some random shit. I think this open letter thread is going to take up the majority of our time today. But I think it's a good post. So, to Director Inkwell and the GMS leadership team. Global MapleStory is currently experiencing a historic surge in interest, but we are facing a crisis of sustainability. Your internal data likely confirms what the community feels. A significant portion of our player base, upwards of 50%, quits within 30 to 60 days of a major patch. We're not writing this out of a desire to complain, but out of a desire to see the game thrive. To do that, we must address the systemic issues that make GMS feel less like a hobby and more like a series of predatory hurdles. The endgame progression crisis, luck versus effort. Chapter 1, I should say. The most significant issue in global MapleStory, specifically within heroic worlds, is effort does not correlate with power. This is the primary reason why veteran players burn out and why mid-game players quit before reaching the finish line. Point 1. The waiting room and devaluation of time. In a heroic, non-trading environment, progression is entirely dependent on spares. Currently, the endgame has become a waiting room. A player can farm 40 hours a week, clear every boss perfectly, and remain stagnant for 6 months because they didn't get a lucky drop. Meanwhile, a player who puts in a fraction of the effort can get a lucky drop and surpass them instantly. The logic, when a game stops rewarding hard work and starts rewarding pure variance, the incentive to try hard vanishes, and this is a fundamental design flaw. Of course... Oh, hold on. My cat wants out, I think. Silly little guy just wanted some pets and then wanted to dip. Anyways. I did want to... point out for the first point, I don't think it's wrong. You know, I don't. I obviously think people who put more time in should get more rewards from their effort, right? I think that's standard. And I think everybody, for the most part, would agree. The person who puts in more time should, generally speaking, be more progressed. Obviously, there's different decision-making paths you can take within the amount of time you invest, so time is just one factor. How you manage your resources and what you do with that time spent, all of these are factors too, but I think for the general idea, yes, time in should equal more rewards or more effort or more progress, than somebody who doesn't put in the same amount of time. But there is a very good point here to be made in that there needs to be more than just numbers to a game, right? There does. What do I mean by this? I mean there needs to be a level of, I guess, luck. I don't know a better way to put it. For better or for worse, there needs to be a level of gating that is a factor you cannot directly control, you just have to kind of get lucky. Whether this be through item drops, or this bullshit Star Force systems, or the bullshit cube systems, like, MapleStory has layers upon layers of RNG, and I mean, they keep adding more with stuff like Mystic Frontier. At least, at the very least, Mystic Frontier is just... It's not fun, and it's not very good unless you high roll it, but at least it's free. But this is what I mean. There's just so many RNG upon RNG layers in this game. It's the classic, if you hit, you're chilling. If you don't hit, you're fucked forever type shit. And that's not a good way to be. I think MapleStory is way too far on that extreme end, but I am saying there needs to be some level of, like, thing you can't directly influence aside from just bashing your head against the wall, you know what I mean? Because then you get into a cycle where a game can be completed in X amount of hours, you know what I mean? And that's not something you want, especially in an MMO. I would say if this wasn't an MMO, it's probably fine to have, like, oh, you can finish the game and everything to do in it in, like, 100 hours or whatever, right? But for an MMO, that just does not work. That's why you see every MMO in the game, in the universe, have either time gates on their drops or just completely random drops, etc. Stuff like that. You know, your Final Fantasies, your WoWs, whatever the fuck it might be. Any MMO forever has randomness to it. There needs to be some randomness, but I do 100% agree, MapleStory has too many RNG layers upon RNG layers upon RNG layers, and it just does not feel good and does not work. I mean, it works, quote-unquote, but it doesn't feel great. The negative progression trap. Starforcing rare gear in GMS is one of the only experiences in modern gaming where a player can sit down for a session and end up weaker than they started. In modern game. Okay. Well, I was immediately I jumped to cubing too, because cubing you could easily try to cube something and end up weaker too. It's just more unlikely, because, like, I get what this guy's means though, because I was trying to think. But no, I completely agree. Just straight away. Completely agree. The impact. Pitch boss item represents months of anticipation. 2% boom chance doesn't just destroy an item. It deletes months of a human being's life. This creates a quit point. A logical person seeing 200 hours of work deleted in seconds will often choose to stop playing entirely rather than restart the climb. Issue does not exist in servers where you can simply buy another spare off the auction house. Reboots and ability to trade or buy spares prevent players from making meaningful progress. I don't fully agree with this take. I know everybody just... Because, I mean, everybody plays... I mean, I wouldn't say everybody plays Reboot, but I will say a vast majority of people who play the game play Reboot, and they just immediately look at, like, interactive or regular worlds and see the ability to trade items and be like, well, they don't have an issue because they can trade. And it's like, yes, asterisk. You're still spending resources to obtain the item, right? And how do you get that resource? You either spend time grinding for it or you buy it with your money, your money card. My Klarna. You put that shit on Klarna. So it still doesn't feel particularly great, and it still is a barrier. It's just less of a barrier than it is in Heroic, which I think is what people are trying to say. It's just the way they're saying it isn't quite correct. Because saying... The way that I read this is it's just like, oh, well, regular has it perfectly fine. And they don't. They do not. The issue is a little bit more alleviated there because of the tradability of certain items like pitched or the star spec boxes, but it still exists. You know what I mean? And I think it's fair to point out that it still exists for both servers and just one server has a little bit. You know? We don't always have to be like, well, mine's bigger type shit. But that's just a personal opinion. Complexity versus quality of life, the Gallix model. To address this concern, Nexon has introduced complex systems like star specs and trace restorations to solve the boom problem. These systems are mathematically discouraged, a failure of complexity. Based on current acquisition rates, restoring a single item can take 15 to 18 weeks to hit 24 or 25 stars. A player needs dozens of spares. Math for a full set of endgame gear under the system extends into years, if not decades. Well, I will point out that I don't think 24 or 25 stars right now is a valid benchmark. I am not going to sit here and say that it's not going to be a valid benchmark in the future, but for now, I don't think it's fair to assess 24 or 25 star rates. I think 22 stars should be still the assessment point. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that. Obviously, in the future, things are going to go up, right? But I am hopeful that they do something to change the acquisition rates going forward with that natural progression. We already have a perfect model in the game, Gallic. Good lord, I do not agree with that. If you kill the boss and aren't lucky enough to get the drop, you get coins. It makes every run feel like meaningful progress. In 3 weeks, I now know I have my item. We don't need RNG boxes or cap spec systems. We need a simple token-based pity system for all in-game gear. I mean, I do agree, and we kind of do have that now. With Whisper Crystals, you will just always have a pitched item of your choice minus total control. Honestly, I think they should just throw total control in the pool anyways. It doesn't matter. Like, X-Lot is not super in-game. But I don't disagree with the premise, but I do disagree with calling Gallic's a perfect model. That boss is a fucking miserable experience. And Gallic's gear is not a great example, I don't think. Especially with the 25-star, or the 30-star changes. But again, that's totally a personal thing. And I agree with the overall, or the underlying concept. I just would not call Gallic's perfect. I would call having a guaranteed pity system for items perfect, though. Yes, 100%. And we did get that with Whisper Crystal. I do think Whisper Crystals probably need help. I've always kind of said that. And I think the help could come in the form of them making the trace restoration missions better. I have minorly complained about the trace restoration things in the past, and my biggest complaint is that it just seems like the numbers are completely random. They just typed in whatever the hell they wanted for the amount of points to restore each item. Why the fuck does an Eternal cost like almost a full bar? Like 2,300 points or something? What? Breath of Divinity is like 800. Arcanes are 800. An Arcane and a Breath of Divinity is the same amount to restore? It does not make sense. Why is a pitched item like 1,700 or 1,680, whatever it is? Like, it just seems like they picked random numbers arbitrarily. I think if they actually tune the system to be more reasonable, I think the boss restoration system could help alleviate a lot of the issue. It won't fix it entirely, because you're never going to be able to fix something as variable as star forcing, unfortunately, without, like, just removing the system. And I do not see them ever removing star forcing, ever, for any reason whatsoever. So, if that's ever a hope, I would love to be wrong, I just don't see it happening. Because we even had star forcing way back in the day, right? It was just called an equipment enhancement. And it was a scroll-based thing. It just didn't have a fancy UI, but it was still the same stars, right? Like, we've had equipment enhancements for, like, a long time. This system is not going anywhere. The enhancement cage. Because of the new Star Force system, we're penalized for tapping off event. With these events being spaced 6 to 10 weeks apart, players are forced to hoard life savings and wait. Puts an unhealthy amount of pressure on a single day. If you're unlucky on that one Sunday, you're caged for another 2 months. You want a player to quit a game, make them feel like they wasted time and effort because of bad RNG. Match what KMS did with bi-weekly Star Force events without us having to wait 6 months for these changes. Reducing the stakes of each individual session makes the game feel more like a journey, especially because we have heroic servers. I think the proposition here is fine. I think having more frequent events is just good, period. Because I don't think waiting is particularly fun. But I will point out that it has always been troll to tap off event. It's just now it's even more troll because of the bottleneck being spares, and because you're tapping with a higher percentage chance of booming now if you do tap off event. It's, like, more troll than it was before, but it's always been troll to tap off event. Like, you've just always griefed yourself. It's just now the griefing feels a little bit worse because it directly impacts, like, the biggest hurdle, which is dupes. But I do completely agree. I don't see why they don't just make literally Shining Star Force twice a month. I really don't see why they don't. It would change very little for the long-term picture of Nexon, and it would just be like player QOL. You know what I mean? I don't know. Chapter 2, the retention wall, early and mid-game hurdles. While the endgame is a lottery, the early game is a series of unnecessary restrictions that drive new players away before they can even see the pitched waiting room. Number 1, the rental gear time trap. Rental gear is an excellent addition, but the 24-hour expiration is illogical. For a player with a full-time job, rental gear often expires before they can log back in for a second session. The fix, extend this for 3 to 7 days, whatever. Furthermore, new players quit because they spend their first 30 days just trying to make meso and drop gear. Including these stats in the rental system would allow them to actually experience the game's content while they build their permanent sets. Rental gear, I don't know how to feel about, personally, because this is like a completely unique new GMS system that we didn't know we were getting until we got it, basically. And it's only like an event thing, right? Like, it's going away when Challenger World goes away, if I'm not mistaken, like in April or whatever. So I'm not even sure if we're gonna get this shit again. I do think overall rental gear is probably like good overall for the game. Especially when it alleviates issues such as being able to rent a Cont 4 or a Roar 4 for people who just haven't seen those drop because there's no pity for Oz rings. Shout out to the 292 Callin in my guild who didn't have a Roar 4 until last week. Brother, you should not be level 292 with no Roar 4. That's insanity. It shouldn't be allowed. That's why I was so happy when I finally got mine, because I'm fully cognizantly aware of how fucked you can get on these things that have no pity, which is why I get very scared when I do anything that has no pity. If there's no pity, cubing, star forcing, none of this shit has pity. You have to expect outcomes that are on the bad end of the variance, because it can and will happen. It just sucks. I don't think it should be able to happen, right? I don't. Which is why I think it's a very hard balancing act. And I definitely think more improvements need to be made. Talking about the rental gear, though, I definitely think the expiration shouldn't be 24 hours. Because double-dipping rental gear is the mathematically correct thing to do. And it's very annoying to do it. If you can even do it at all, right? Obviously, I'm in a, generally speaking, good position to be able to double dip with the rental gear, but I know a lot of people can't do that, even if they wanted to. It's just, it's asinine. I completely agree. I think, honestly, a 7-day timer would be fine. Though, any timer more than, like, 24 hours would work, right? I can kind of understand that they don't want people to just permanently have this, like, set of gear. But you can already kind of permanently have the set of gear and, like, double dip, and it, like, gets even more value. Like, I don't know. Like, I get what they were trying to do, it just doesn't quite work. They do need to increase the time. As far as adding meso and drop lines to it, I don't know how I feel about that. Because it seems to me they're worried about people using the rental gear over making real gear, which I think is why there's such a low timer on the rental gear in the first place. So adding meso and drop rate lines to it as well, just as like a bonus, I feel like goes against what they're trying to do. I don't know, maybe give like half meso, half drop. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think they could probably do full meso and full drop, and it would be fine. Maybe it'd be a little broken. I mean, I don't... see, this is what I mean. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for that. It's an interesting idea, is what I'll say. Vac pet gating. In modern MapleStory, a vac pet is not a luxury, it is a requirement. Yep, I've been saying. It's a fucking subscription that you kind of just have to factor in. It's a requirement. The maps are designed for it, providing a 30-day trial, and removing it creates a massive quality of life cliff without a permanent accessible way to maintain this. Players realize the game is a chore and leave. The fix, make vac pets permanent in the cash up. Didn't they already do that? Or am I hallucinating? I swear they did that. I swear you can buy vac pets all the time now, but maybe I'm just completely making that up. I do that all the time. And give us our damn universal cash shop like every other region. Universal cash shop, obviously, I'm not going to say I don't want it. Obviously, I want it. Why we don't have it, couldn't tell you. It's just a bunch of people with their ideas, you know? I don't know. But yeah, vac pets, if they're not already permanently available in the cash shop, they should be. 100%. I thought that was already a thing, though. If it's not, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I am a human. I only have a limited memory bank. And yeah, Universal Cash Shop would be fire. I still am part of the team that believes we will get it at some point. There's just some reason we didn't get it, and it's unknowns as to why. Why do I feel like that? Maybe because I'm just coping. I don't know. I want Universal Cash Shop, though, and I just hope we get it at some point. Monetization and the problem/solution model, good old chapter 3. We've noticed a shift where gameplay friction is created specifically so a solution can be sold in the cash shop. See a premium pass releasing the first GMS exclusive class and paywalling in the event is predatory. This is what GMS exclusive means, I'll go east. I mean, it's a bit extreme, but the SIA premium pass was kinda eh. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible, and I don't know. It just is what it is. I don't care if it's in the game. I don't care if it's out of the game. That's how I feel about it personally. This point, though, the GMS tax, how is it that a color prism is a $7 direct purchase in GMS, but in KMS, but in GMS it's an RNG gamble through $60 mythic box? This shit is fucking insane. I'm not that deep into the fashion story, thank God, but I have a friend that is, and she had a rough go with the color prisms. My God. Why is it like this? I mean, I know why it's like this, right? Money good, smiley face. But good lord. Just let people recolor their fucking virtual pixel clothes, man. Like, what are we doing? Of the things here, this needs to be changed the most, in my opinion. It's just the most egregious thing possible. And then the AFK experience, Lux Sauna. Adding this into Heroic basically defeats what Reboot was all about by continually adding regular pay-to-win features into Heroic. We're essentially a handicapped interactive world without trading. Again, I think this is making a bit of a leap. Sauna is obviously very good, and it's very efficient, obviously, since it scales all the way up to, I believe it's 294 at this point. I think 294 is where it stops, and it's like 90k mob kills or something an hour equivalent. I think it's something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. Something like that. And the experience is obviously very, very good. But maybe it's just because I'm used to it, you know? I don't see this as, like, that big of a deal. Would I rather it not exist? Yes, of course. But of the things that I'm going to pick and choose to battle against, is this going to be one of them? You know, I think that's a lot of how I view things. Because I think I view things a lot in terms of, like, how much energy do I have and what am I going to put my energy towards? You know what I mean? And there's a limited amount of things that you can put your energy towards. You know? I don't know. That's how I view things. Of course, as always, would I prefer this stuff to just not be in the game? Yeah, of course. But we're being realistic here, right? These things are going to be in the game in some manner. So it's just like what things should be in the game without being too inhibitive. And I mean, if we're going to go the pay-to-win route, quote-unquote, I would argue the Genesis Pass is probably stronger than any of these things listed here, and it's just not listed. Is it because the Genesis Pass is so good and it's so quote-unquote cheap? You know what I mean? Like, we're just, like, picking and choosing. You know what I mean? Like, I think the Genesis Pass is probably stronger than all of these things combined. And the fact that you're able to buy 2 of them, like, I basically just got 2 free liberated characters, quote-unquote free. Obviously, I had to pay for the passes on both the characters, but it's such a good value for what you get. It's like a no-brainer. But that's what I mean. I think the Genesis Pass, like, way stronger than all of these things. And I would argue it's way more pay-to-win. Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, pick and choose. And again, this is completely up to the individual, you know what I mean? It's up to the individual to what they're willing to tolerate and deal with. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. Transparency and the trust deficient. Finally, we must address the culture of unintentional changes. Recent Arcane and Absolab box nerf, which was fixed only after community outcries, significant hit player trust, whether it was an accident or not. Core progression rates are changed silently. The moment items become tradable, it looks like a deliberate throttle on player power. History of broken rates does not favor the developer. Need commitment to total transparency. If a rate is changed, it must be in the patch notes. Universal. What the fuck does the Universal Cash Shop have to do with this? What? I'm sorry, what? The Universal Cash Shop has already been implemented in all other regions. Its absence in GMS creates a toxic community environment. Does it? And the lack of communication only makes it worse. GMS's decision to not include it, own up, and just tell people. Okay, I see why he was trying to shoehorn that in. He just wants GMS to, like, talk about it. I think that's fair. I was like, what the fuck does the Cash Shop have to do with Arcane drop boxes? Oh, man. I think communication overall just needs to happen. I've said this in, like, I think it was last week's Lost Ark Topical Tuesday video, but every game company does this. They do the same cycle of, like, oh yeah, we'll do better at communicating this and that. Maybe they get a little bit better for a little while, and then they go back to the same completely radio silent. And it's just, it's easier to not say things because you have to get so many different approvals to say, like, a statement, and then the statement is usually just, like, super PR and, like, irrelevant. It's a fucking whole bunch of work. That's why companies just don't do it. At least that's my take on it. And honestly, sometimes they just don't have a good answer to give people. But yeah, obviously communication would be great. 100%. Do not disagree. I want to be part of the 50% that stays, not part of the 50% that leaves, but Heroic GMS cannot survive as a lottery simulator where players pay for the privilege of having their progress deleted with no meaningful way to progress in the game. Our request is simple: reward effort, not just luck. Simplify the pity systems or adjust the rates and remove the caps. Increase the frequency of enhancement events. And stop creating paywalls for basic gameplay functionality. Respect their time and will continue to invest in the future of GMS. Sincerely, a frustrated 20-year-long player who boomed all their gear. Yeah, that's relatable, man. Yeah, I think overall this is a very good post, which is why I skimmed it and saw it, and I was like, you know what? This is probably what I'm going to be mostly talking about today. There's a lot of different solutions that people offer in comments and stuff. I don't really know. Negative progression is real and interactive too. Yeah, that's what I mean. We don't all have unlimited money in our real lives. Blowing up an item is like a terminus defender that can't easily be priced offable. 21 to 18 star, now you just lost over $100 real life too. You have to risk it up blowing first tap 18 to 19 because fuck us. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is exactly what I mean. Like, it's alleviated slightly in interactive, but the same issue still exists. Anyways, but like I said, I don't have the answers or solutions. I've never claimed to. I'm just a dude who plays games on the internet. You know what I mean? But it's interesting to get people talking about it and thinking about it, for sure. Inkwell note a riot. Revert the kalos Callin loot changes. Stop destroying interactive servers. Stop copying and pasting KMS changes before you ensure they're relevant to the community. I mean, I completely agree. I think the kalos Callin changes are fucking absurd for our version of the game, especially in interactive. Interactive is already struggling a lot. I don't think this was the right way to do it. Basically, they got the exact KMS changes where Reboot didn't. Reboot still has instance loot. I mean, if Reboot didn't have instance loot, this shit would be cooked for real. So they at least understand the change was bad conceptually for Reboot. But they still went ahead with it in interactive. But our interactive is not the same as KMS interactive. Obviously, I can't speak for interactive, but I do have a couple friends that play interactive and are super into the game and super endgame. And from what I understand, it seems like this change doesn't really fit our server, our version of the game. Yeah. I mean, top post, only server without Universal Cash Shop. I get the idea, but, like, it has nothing to do with what the guy is saying. Callin kalos change is horrible. They should not have implemented that here. Yeah, that's the general consensus. Saddened that the game pushing for solo play rather than party play. I think that's like the biggest thing for interactive, especially because you are incentivized now more than ever to solo, which is fine in a vacuum, but it's an MMO, right? I don't know. I think giving people the ability to play how they want to play is like such a valuable thing. And I think that's why I prefer lower party instanced bosses, like 3-man bosses versus 6-man bosses. Because you can get to a point where you can duo, like the normal mode of like 3-man bosses. Maybe even duo the hard version of a 3-man boss if you're like not pushing fucking like Jupiter or like Baldrix. I mean, maybe someday I'll be able to duo hard Limbo, maybe. I don't know. But I think having agency over how you play the game is like very important, whether you want to solo things, whether you want to, you know, play with a couple friends, whatever it might be. And I think trying to shoehorn people into playing solo on only is not great. I completely agree. Surprised nobody's talking more about this. Based on our internal investigation. Oh yeah, this is the internal investigation thing. I mean, I think it's like a no-brainer, right? Obviously, you don't ever investigate yourself when it comes to certain things, but they're not going to get an external audit for this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I also understand it. So I just don't know how you could ever fix this. I don't know. And people always say, just like publish the rates like publicly. First comment explains exactly why this doesn't work. Even when they do publish the rates, they were caught not once but twice for discrepancies again between actual rates and published rates. Even if the rates were completely correct, you would never be able to be like, well, clearly those rates are right, 100%, they are what they are. It's just not how it works. There is no way to solve this issue. It's just shitty. What do you do? I don't know, man. I don't know. Remove the fucking system entirely and make a different one would be my solution, but I know that's not gonna happen. Where's the compensation? 5,000 fragments, 500 solar, 500 family roll cards, 55 burgers, 55 fries. That's my kind of shit. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised we didn't really get any compensation. Maybe they'll cook something up for an Inkwell note. I don't know. I'm coping. I want free shit. I love free shit. I do also want to put in a note for the Twentina portal shit. That event is still really broken. If you want to play like the game as like a pseudo idle game. I talked about it more in the last week video. So if you want to look, if you want like an in-depth, I mean, it's not super in-depth, but if you want like a literal step-by-step guide on what the fuck the Twentina portal event is, you can farm like advanced XP vouchers basically every like 20 minutes. It's pretty good as long as you have easy access to like a computer every like 20 minutes for 3 to 5 minutes, because you have to kill shit for 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll see you guys all in the next one though. Like the video if you like it, subscribe. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye. Oh, thank you, my YouTube members. It's Diz, Remix Sweat Life. Love all you guys very, very much. Bye.